من بين الصلب والترائب إنه على رجعه لقادر يوم تبلى السرائر فما له من قوة ولا ناصر والسماء ذات الرجع والأرض ذات الصدع إنه لقول فصل وما هو بالحزن إنهم يكيدون كيدا وأكيد كيدا فمهل الكافرين أمهلهم رويدا صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد ألم نجعل له عينين ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين فلاقتحم العقبة وما أدراك ما العقبة فك رقبة أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة أولئك أصحاب الميمنة والذين كفروا بآياتنا هم أصحاب المشأمة عليهم نار مؤصدة صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin.
पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात।
صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Please, before we begin, recite Surah Fatiha for your marhumin and for the marhumin of all those mu'mineen, mu'minat that do not have anyone to pray on their behalf. اللهم اغفرهم وارحمهم واسكنهم من جوار محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدته القائلون ولا يوصينا معه العادون ولا يودي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالسقر ميدان عرض ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول ولا تبطلوا أعمالكم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As these majalis are continuing, and one thing you should all remember from these gatherings, these majalis that happen, is that when you come here, first and foremost, please do your best to come here with wuzu. To come here with wuzu. Be pure when you come here. Why? Because it's in these gatherings that the narrations state that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they themselves come to these gatherings. And a lot of people don't understand how important these gatherings are. Al-Burhan fi Tafsir al-Quran, and that's Sayyid Hashim Bahrani's tafsir, and Abdul Ali al-Hawaizi's tafsir, Nur al-Thaqalain. They both have narrations where it says that the angels from the heavens, they come down to earth. They come down to earth. When they go back up, the angels that are up in the heavens, they smell a fragrance on them that does not exist in heaven. When they smell that fragrance, those angels up there, they ask these angels, this fragrance, where did you bring it from? And they said that we were down on earth. Where? We were down on earth at a place where the zikr of the Ahlul Bayt was happening. We were at a place where the zikr of the Ahlul Bayt was happening, and that zikr is finished. The angels up there, they ask, can you tell us where this zikr is happening so we'll also go down? The angels, they say, no, the zikr is finished. Everything that was done, it's done. They've closed the center, they've closed the masjid, whatever the case is, they've closed it, and we're all back here again. Those angels, what are they hoping for? Or what are they hoping to receive? They're hoping to receive a fragrance that this place has only and only because of the zikr of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Only and only because of the zikr of the Ahlul Bayt. So when you come to these places, understand what is happening here. Do not just come and think, oh, you know what, this is just a 40-minute lecture, 50-minute lecture, this is something I have to do. No, the sawab that you get, you'll understand that sawab in the afterlife. A lot of people, for example, they go for ziyarat. Inshallah, we'll talk about our topic, but this is something I need everyone, the youngsters especially, to understand. A lot of people, they go to ziyarat. They asked Abu Abdullah al-Hussein for whatever they want. They ask Abul Fazl Abbas for everything they want. They ask Bab al-Hawaj, Imam Musa for everything they want. But they come back and they say, you know what? we didn't get what we wanted. We didn't get what we wanted. They come back and they feel dejected. They feel dejected. You have to remember that they give you based on whether or not you're able to handle what you're asking for. A lot of the times we want something, but we're not able to handle it. But it's not that the Ahlul Bayt don't give you anything and they send you back home empty-handed. It's not like that at all. Ayatollah Bashir Najafi, who's a Grand Marja right now in Najaf, his son was given a lecture Bainul Haramain, between two harams of Abu Abdullah Hussein Abul Fazl Abbas on the 3rd and 4th of Shaban. And he says, look, coming to these places, it's like going into a perfume shop. Coming to these places is like going into a perfume shop. Even if you were to go into a perfume shop and not buy anything, people would still know that you went to a perfume shop. Why? Because you will have a fragrance that comes off you. Even if you were to buy anything. So don't think that when you come here, you're not getting anything. No, when you come here, the sins that you've come with, those sins are being released from you. When you come to these majalis, know that those sins are being released from you. Who's releasing those sins? The individuals whose zikr is happening. They're the ones that are releasing these sins. When it comes to Karbala, I had said that there were cornerstones of Karbala, and one of the cornerstones that we need to talk about today is another incident that happened around the same time as the incident that we spoke about yesterday, which was what? Yesterday we spoke about the incident that is known as the Black Thursday, the incident that is known as the hadith of pen and paper, correct? Today, we are speaking about another incident that happened around the same time, and that is the expedition of Usama. This expedition, the narrations, they state that this expedition, the Holy Prophet wanted this expedition. Why? Because in the battle of Mu'tah that had occurred 8 years after Hijrah, that battle, the Muslims, they had lost that war. They had lost that battle. And in that battle, who was shaheed? Do you all know? Tayyab, he was martyred in that battle. Usama's father, when Tayyab was martyred in that battle, he was a standard bearer. When he was martyred, Usama's father, he's the one who became the standard bearer. He was also martyred in that battle. Where did that battle take place? Right now. In the areas that we have right now, they're in Jordan. Today, there are mausoleums in Jordan that are dedicated to the shuhada of the Battle of Mu'tah. Tayyab and the father of Usama, they're both buried there. And all the shuhada of Mu'tah, they're buried there. Where? In Jordan. When they lost that battle, that was when? The 8th year after Hijrah. The Battle of Mu'tah happened 8 years after Hijrah. What Hijrah is this now? Where the Holy Prophet, he's asking for expedition to go, to take revenge for the Battle of Mu'tah. Do you all know when this is happening? The 11th year after Hijrah. How many years is there a difference between from the 8th and the 11th? 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, correct? Did the Holy Prophet really want to send all of these companions to this expedition, to this battle, to take revenge for a battle that the Muslims had lost 3 years prior? Or no? Did the Holy Prophet have different motives? That's the question that needs to be asked. Because when it came to this expedition of Usama at that time was 18, 19 years old. The Holy Prophet, he told everyone to go into the army of Usama, and wherever he takes you, go. All the companions were told this, except for Amir al-Mu'mineen, except for some of the Banu Hashim. But everyone else was ordered to go and join the army of Usama. Everyone else was ordered. What did the companions do? Some of them, they said, no, we can't go. Why? The Holy Prophet's in this type of state. Meaning the Holy Prophet's ill, we want to stay back. Our love for the Holy Prophet prevents us from going and obeying the commands of the Holy Prophet. We'll get to all of this because this is exactly what we need to talk about. The verse of the Quran that I started off with, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu atiullah wa atiur rasul. O you who believe, obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obey the Prophet. And then it goes on to say, وَلَا تُبْتِلُوا أَعْمَالُكُمْ. Do not make your deeds vain. Do not nullify your deeds. Do not cancel out your deeds. How would an individual cancel out their deeds? The verse of the Quran itself states, when you analyze it, the way that your deeds will be cancelled is if you do not follow the commands of the Holy Prophet. If you do not follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you don't follow the commands of the Holy Prophet and the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then your deeds have become null and void. So what does this mean? This means that if the Holy Prophet commands you to do something, it becomes wajib for you to do it. It becomes wajib for you to do it. You might be thinking, well, this is battle. This is battle. Battle isn't wajib for everyone. That's absolutely true. Jihad isn't wajib for everyone. It's not. Jihad isn't wajib for the elderly. Jihad isn't wajib for women. Jihad isn't wajib for the sick. It's not. But it was only and only this expedition where the Holy Prophet, he tells everyone to go. Before, when it came to other battles, if some of the people did not want to go, the Holy Prophet did not force them, did not press on. He didn't. He just left them be. But it is only and only for this expedition where the Holy Prophet, he's forcing, he's telling people you have to go. Why? Keep that question in mind. Why is the Holy Prophet wanting people to go here? Secondly, the narrations already state that the Holy Prophet is ill. The Holy Prophet has already said that this is going to be my last Hajj. I'm not going to be with you all anymore. This is a time when you want your closest of friends to be near you. This is a time when you want your family to be near you. Isn't that correct? When you feel that you're going to pass away. For example, if someone's ill in a hospital, don't they want their family members near them? Don't they want their friends to be close to them? They do. The Holy Prophet's sick. He himself, he's saying, I'm not going to live longer. But he wants all of his companions to leave him. Why? Why? The Holy Prophet had already said beforehand, when they came back from Hajj, he comes with one of the most devout companions that the Islamic Ummah considers to be devout. He's talking with him, and he starts to cry. The Holy Prophet, he starts to cry. When he starts to cry, that companion, he asks, Ya Rasulullah, why are you crying? And Rasulullah, he says to him, because as soon as I leave this world, the calamities that are going to befall the Ummah, I see a darkness that's approaching the Ummah. As soon as I leave this world, he points to the house of Lady Zahra. And he says, as soon as I leave this world, that house, that door is going to burn down. And this companion, he says, Ya Rasulullah, it's going to burn down even though I'm alive? And the Holy Prophet, he looks at him and he goes, you're going to be part of that. You're going to be part of those individuals that burn that house down. These were the types of companions that the Holy Prophet had. When the Holy Prophet tells this individual, you're also going to be a part of that, what should this individual have said? Ya Rasulullah, is there any way? Is there any way? Or is there anything I can do that will make sure that I'm not a part of it? No, the Holy Prophet already said it, you're going to be part of it. That's it. That is Sadiq al-Amin. That was the title that was given to him. So when this individual has said, no, you're going to be a part of it, he's going to be a part of it. Doesn't matter what the Holy Prophet says now. These companions had not listened to the Holy Prophet in his lifetime. Do you all think that they would listen to him now that he's leaving this world? No. And you see this even today. This taking orders. Who do you and I today, whose commands is it wajib for us to listen to? The youngsters. If the parents tell us to do something, what happens? Is that wajib for us to do or no? Yes. To the point where the narration state that if the mother wants you to do something, you break your prayer and you go answer her call. You break your prayer and you answer her call. That's how important it is. That's how important our parents are in Islam. You break your prayer. What is prayer? Think about that. What is prayer? That is when you're directly speaking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you break that tie that you have. You go answer the call of your mother. Another companion of the Holy Prophet, in the Holy Prophet's time, a youngster, 18, 19 years old, he comes to the Holy Prophet and he tells the Holy Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, I want to go for jihad. He goes, then what's preventing you? It's my mother. What about your mother? She's old, no one's there to take care of her. I'm the only person. I'm the only person. The Holy Prophet, he says, if that's the case, then you take care of her. Every night that you're by her side and she's happy that you're by her side, that's more than 1 year's worth of jihad in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. More than 1 year's worth of jihad. Other narrations, more than 70 years of ibadat. This commands. But now, this is a command from whom? To go to the army of Usama is a command, not from mother, not from father, but no, this is a command from the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if the command of a mother is wajib for her to adhere to, then the command of the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? Even more important. When they did not listen to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did they do? Doesn't it say that they voided their amal? The verse of the Quran. It's become wajib now. And this wasn't the first time. This wasn't the only time. In the Hajj, and even before Hajj, who was the individual who started questioning the Holy Prophet when Sulh Hudaybiyah happened? Who was the individual who said when the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was signed that I never doubted the prophethood of the Prophet as much as I doubted it today? Umar ibn Khattab, he is the one who said that. Pay attention to the words, I never doubted the prophethood of the Prophet as much as I doubted it today. So that means what? That means that before today, he doubted the prophethood of the Holy Prophet. These were the types of individuals that the Holy Prophet was surrounded by. These individuals. Why did they not want to go into the army of Usama? Some of them, they said, no, he's too young. He's 18, 19 years old. We don't want a 19-year-old to lead us. We don't want a 19-year-old to lead us. And you see that this was one of the same excuses that they used to take away the Khilafat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ya Ali, you're too young. These two, they're older than you. You'll have your chance. You're too young. The Holy Prophet loved his father. That's absolutely true. The Holy Prophet also loved Usama. But he did not make Usama the commander of the army because of favoritism. No, he made him the commander because even though he was 19, even though he was 18, he was worthy of being the commander of the army. It's not the akhlaq of the Holy Prophet. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about the Holy? Everything that the Holy Prophet says is what? Everything that the Holy Prophet does, Surah Al-Najm, is what? Wahi, it's been revealed to the Holy Prophet. So if the Holy Prophet has made Usama the commander of the army, it's revealed to the Holy Prophet that he's going to be the commander of the army. It's a revelation that's been revealed to him. So when you deny that revelation, when you become an obstacle to that revelation, when you don't act on that revelation, what does that make you? Think about that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, not just one time, Atiullah wa Rasul, He says this many times. Why is He constantly emphasizing right after? You look at all these verses that say, obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right afterwards, the Holy Prophet has also said. The Prophet has also said. Why is it like this? How are you going to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do you know that you've truly obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do you know? The only way that you'll know if you've truly obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is if there's a representative of His on earth who can say, yes, you've obeyed Him. And the only way that you'll obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is when you obey that representative. this representation through imamat, this representation through nabuwat, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala governs this world, through that representation. In the world that we live in, we have a US president, yes? We have a vice president, yes? But do we also not have people that represent the United States in other parts of the countries? What are they called? Ambassadors? What are they called? No. Senators are for within. Those individuals that represent the United States in other countries. Ambassadors. Is there not embassies in, for example, Pakistan, US embassy in India, US embassy in all over the world? Those embassies, who do they have? An ambassador of the United States who represents the United States for that country. Yes? Can that ambassador do anything without the permission of the president? Not on his own. But if the president has already given him permission to do certain acts, does he need to constantly then come back and ask the president, can I do this, can I do this, can I do this? No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Why? Because the president has already told him, hey, this is your job description. You can do anything over here that is on your job description. You don't need to come back and ask me. The same way, the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're the representatives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they need to do something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given them permission to do what they need to do. He's already told them what you can do and what you can't do. They don't need to constantly go back and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, should I do this or should I not? Should I do this or should I not? No. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So when the Holy Prophet told these companions to go, some of these companions, the narrations, they say that reluctantly, when the Holy Prophet went on the minbar and he cursed not once, not twice, but he cursed those companions that would not go with Usama 3 times. He said, may the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on anyone that does not go with Usama. May the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't we say the same thing? May the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on those people that did not adhere to what the Holy Prophet said. So when we send la'an, I want everyone to understand this. What la'an means? La'an basically means may the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be deprived from an individual. That's what la'an truly means. May the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be deprived. So when we send la'an, where do we do this from? Who's done it? If the Holy Prophet has done something even once, what does that become? In Islam, it becomes sunnat. It becomes sunnat. So if the Holy Prophet has sent la'an on those individuals that disobeyed his command, then that itself gives us permission to send la'an on those individuals that disobeyed the commands of the Holy Prophet. We don't do it because we hate them. No, we do it. Why? Because the Holy Prophet himself, he sent la'an on them. He cursed them. That's why we do it. When it comes to these individuals, some of these individuals, when the Holy Prophet cursed them 3 times, the narrations, they say that they went to a place nearby Medina by the name of Jawf. They went there, they camped there. But what would they do? They'd come back to Medina with excuses. They'd come back to the encampment, they'd come back to the city with excuses. And some of these prominent companions were part of them. Some of these prominent companions did not even bother going. Why? Because their daughters were married to Rasulullah and they were giving them, or those daughters were feeding these companions every single information that was happening in the house of Rasulullah. That was happening in the house of Rasulullah. These companions, they were waiting for the Holy Prophet. They were waiting for him to leave this world. And inshallah, either tomorrow or the day after, we'll talk about not the wafat of the Holy Prophet, no, the assassination of the Holy Prophet. That's what we'll talk about. Because it was these companions and their family members that actually assassinated the Holy Prophet. Yeah, it might not be a topic that people want to talk about, but the Quran itself, it says, why do you hide the truth when you yourself know it? Why do you hide the truth when you know it? Keeping that verse in mind, then it becomes necessary for us to tell others what the truth truly is. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Atiullah, He says Atiur Rasul. If you don't obey the commands of Rasulullah, then what have you done to your deeds? You've made them vain. You've cancelled out your deeds. Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it so anyone who cancels out their deeds or anyone who disobeys the commands of Rasulullah, their deeds are gone? Think about this. Nabuwwat is going to end now. Nabuwwat is going to end now. The Holy Prophet himself, he said that that's it. After me, there's no prophet that is coming. So does that mean that now this verse of the Quran is done? We don't follow it? No. Because there's another verse of the Quran that says what? Atiullah wa atiur Rasul wa ulil amr minkum. Obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet. And who? Those that are given authority from amongst you. Those that are given authority from amongst you. Look at the verse. When the Sunnis, they look at this verse, they say, oh, okay, those that are given authority, then Abu Bakr was given authority. Umar was given authority. Usman was given authority. Muawiyah was given authority. Yazid was given authority. This verse is telling us to obey anyone that is given authority. But brothers and sisters, analyze the verse. Analyze the verse. By that, those individuals that are given authority, does that mean that anyone that has authority, we follow them? If that's the case in the country that you and I live in, who has authority? Muslims or non-Muslims? Non-Muslims. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? He says, do not take the Christians or the Jews to be your masters. Do not take the Christians or the Jews to be your leaders. Then how do you reconcile the two verses? If we're supposed to obey anyone that has authority, and today we live in a country where a Christian has authority, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not obey the orders of these individuals. How do you reconcile that? Two, if ulul amr means anyone, then if that person tomorrow comes and says for you to drink, what will you do? If that individual tomorrow comes and says for you to drink wine, what will you do? Will you obey them? If you obey them, then you've done something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said not to do. This is why when you interpret the verse, you have to look at what's happening. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will He ever tell you to do something that is detrimental to your own soul? No. What do I mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has isma. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is infallible. Yes? That means that the Holy Prophet now also has to be infallible. Now that ulul amr that is coming, that would mean that ulul amr would also have to be infallible. If he's not infallible, then they could tell you to do something contrary to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they do and you act upon it, what have you done? You've acted contrary to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the reason that ulul amr also needs to be masoom. And who was that ulul amr after the Holy Prophet? Was it the first one? If it was Abu Bakr, the first sermon, inshallah, when we talk about Abu Bakr and his khilafat, in his first sermon, what does he say? He says that shaitan is with me. If I deviate from the path, I want you all to correct it. If I deviate from the path, I want you all to correct it. When you yourself claim that shaitan can overcome you, and you yourself are claiming or telling me to correct you, then why would I follow you? Why would I follow you? If I know better than you, I know more than you, I'm more pious than you, then why would I follow you? Inshallah, when we get to his khilafat, when you come to Umar's khilafat, it says the same thing, similar words. When we get to Usman's khilafat, you see that it was the Islamic Ummah that at the end killed him. When you come to Yazid's khilafat, that's when the Muslims, they open their eyes, which is sad. The majority of Muslims, they open their eyes and interpret this verse of the Quran, Ulul Amr Minkum. What does this mean? When they do it when they come to Yazid's khilafat. Hold on a second. Yazid, he was an open drunk. Yazid, he used to curse the Holy Prophet. Yazid, he had nothing to do with Islam other than his father claiming to be Muslim. What does Yazid say when they brought the head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam? If only my ancestors were alive to see what I've done, how I've avenged them. If only my ancestors were alive to see how I have avenged them. For what? For what Ali ibn Abi Talib did to them. This was the aqeedah of Yazid. And it's only and only when they get to his khilafat, they start questioning this verse of the Quran. No, does it mean anyone and everyone? Or no, does it mean certain individuals? This is why we Shias, from the beginning, we say that it is certain individuals, it's not everyone. You can't have everyone. Because if you do, these types of individuals come into Islam. Even though they have narrations that say that the Imams after the Prophet are 12. When you ask them, or the Khala'if, the Khulafa after the Imam, they're 12. When you ask them to name them, they don't know. They don't know. They have narrations that say that the Khulafa after the Holy Prophet, they're 12. And when you sum up all the Khulafa that have existed after the Holy Prophet, you get to more than 20, if you add all of them up. So what do they do? Who are the 12 Khulafa? They'll take the first 4, and then they'll take some from Banu Umayyah and then some from Banu Abbas. When you ask them, what about the others? No, we don't know about them. We don't know about them. These are the types of companions the Holy Prophet had, and this is what was propagated in the time of Mu'awiyah la'natullahi alayhi. That everything that the Holy Prophet stood for, that needs to be erased. When the azan happened, what does Muawiyah say? I haven't succeeded. Why? Because I wasn't able to take out Muhammad's name from the azan. I wasn't able to take out Muhammad's name from this azan. And who was Muawiyah? Katib al-Wahi. Who was Muawiyah? A companion of the Holy Prophet. When you look at history, he never wrote a single verse of the Quran down. When you look at history, he was never even around the Holy Prophet, neither in Mecca nor in Medina. These are the lies that Banu Umayyah spread. When we come back to this incident, you see that the Holy Prophet, he wanted everyone to leave. And he only wanted Amir al-Mu'mineen to stay. And they knew exactly what was going to happen. If everyone was to leave and Amir al-Mu'mineen was to stay, and the Holy Prophet was to pass away, what would happen? Amir al-Mu'mineen would have his hukumah. He would already be Khalifa. Why? Because these individuals, they'd be on that expedition and they didn't know when they would come back. Some of these expeditions, they took months. Some of these expeditions, they took years. So the Holy Prophet was wanting what? All of these individuals to go with Usama. So Amir al-Mu'mineen could stay here. He'll control Medina. He'll control Medina. But that's not what happened. Why? Because some of these companions, they knew what the Holy Prophet was thinking. To say that, yes, they're evil, that's one thing, but we can't say that they were dumb. No. They knew exactly what they needed to do. They condemned their own souls, but they didn't care about their souls to begin with. All they cared about was power. And this is something everyone has to understand. You can achieve success in this world, but it's on you how you want to achieve success. You can gather wealth in this world, it's up to you, but it's on you on how you want to gather that wealth. Do you want to gather that wealth in a halal way, or you want to gather that wealth in a haram way? It's up to you. Because at the end of the day, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Quran? That on the day of judgment, everything that we've done, an atom's weight, correct? An atom's weight of good will be recompensed. An atom's weight of evil will be meted out punishment. So brothers and sisters, it's up to us. And it's these majalis that teach us this. It's the shahadat of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn al-Islam that teaches us this. It's the life of the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam that teaches us this. Don't look here and there for people to follow. No, we already have our individuals. Look at their life. Some of the companions. I know today also we need to talk about some of the shahadat of some of the companions. We talk about Hur. Hur came the 10th of Ashur. He switched sides when? On the day of Ashur. Yes? Habib, he came to Abu Abdullah al-Husayn al-Islam when? In the month of Muharram. When Imam Husayn al-Islam, he wrote that letter. But what about those companions that accompanied Imam Husayn from Medina? What about those companions that were with Imam Husayn al-Islam on his journey after he left Mecca? What about those companions that left their religion just to sacrifice their life for Abu Abdullah al-Husayn al-Islam? We only talk about one or two companions, when in reality, their companions, for example, Zuhair, he was a staunch advocate of Uthman. He was a staunch advocate of Uthman. But he happened to go towards Kufa. Imam Husayn al-Islam, he ran into him. And Zuhair, he didn't want to do anything with Abu Abdullah al-Husayn al-Islam. He didn't. But some of the narrations, they say that it was his wife that told him, no, that's the grandson of Rasulullah, what are you doing? That's the grandson of Rasulullah. Go meet him. He meets Imam Husayn al-Islam. Then he changes his whole perspective. Everything that he had planned, he changes all of that. He goes to the camp of his wife and he tells his wife, you know what? I've divorced you now. I'm going to go and get martyred with Abu Abdullah al-Husayn al-Islam. I don't want anything to happen to you, so you go with the rest of them, go back to your family. This is Zuhair. And we'll talk about him in the Masa'ib. You have Wahab, who left his religion. You have Joan, who was a former slave. You have all of these companions. They were with Imam Husayn al-Islam, some from Medina, some from Mecca, some before Imam Husayn al-Islam came to the border of Hijaz or Iraq. Look at their stories. Look how Imam Husayn al-Islam changed them. From someone that supported Uthman to someone that was martyred in Karbala. From someone that believed in Nabiullah Isa al-Islam being his savior to now believing Abu Abdullah al-Husayn al-Islam is his savior. This is the impact that Imam Hussein has on every individual. This impact. Why was it that these individuals left everything for Imam Hussein? And all of these individuals, none of these individuals say that we're going to be shaheed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. None of these individuals. You pick up any book of Maqtal, Nafasul Mamum, you pick up Sheikh Abbas Khumi's Nafas, and you read what all of these individuals are saying on the 10th of Ashur when they're seeking permission, none of them are saying, Yabna Rasulullah, do you give us permission to go be shaheed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? None of them are saying that. They're all saying, Yabna Rasulullah, do you give us permission to sacrifice our life for you? This is what everyone needs to understand. All of us that are saying, Labbaik ya Imam, when the Imam comes, we need to train ourselves so when the Imam comes, we can say, Yabna Rasulullah, do you give us permission to sacrifice our life for you? For you. You have to understand what this connection between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and us is. These intermediaries, they're the ones that take us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's through them we know whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with what we've done or what we haven't done. It's through them. If we don't even know who they are, how are we going to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? They're the ones that take us closer. You look at Karbala, there's one thing that you understand from Karbala, and I'm not talking about everything or the most simplest or the basic of durus, the basic of dars, the basic of lessons that you learn from Karbala, where they talk about, Imam Hussein, he stood up for injustice. Yes, he stood up for injustice. That's absolutely true. But look at Karbala and understand that Karbala is not the name of a place anymore. Karbala is not a latitude and a longitude anymore. Karbala has transcended all that. The shahadat of Imam Hussein made Karbala transcend latitude and longitude. No, Karbala is a way of life. Karbala is a way of life now. Meaning what? You have the life that Abu Abdullah Hussein wanted everyone to live, or you have the life that Yazid wanted everyone to live. Karbala now has turned into what? Whatever your dreams are for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the only way, the only route to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now is Karbala. That's what Karbala is now. It's not a latitude and longitude anymore. So when you all think about Karbala, and you're here tonight, in these nights, understand what Imam Hussein did. His sacrifice was so everyone, all of the Muslims could get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you see, that's exactly what happened. After the shahadat, who rose up? Mukhtar. And there were pockets of revolutions also. But the most successful one was Mukhtar's revolution. And where did it rise up from? Kufa. From those same, or from that same city that wrote letters to Imam Hussein, from those same people that wrote letters to Imam Hussein telling him to come, those same people that were in the army of Yazid, in time of Mukhtar, what does Mukhtar do? He takes those same people of Kufa. He gets revenge for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He gets revenge for Imam Hussein. Brothers and sisters, take yourselves now to the night of Ashur. The night of Ashur. Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, he's making his rounds around the tents. When he's making his rounds around the tents, Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam, he goes around and he sees or he hears someone walk in the desert. He calls out, who's there? That's when Imam Hussein, he calls out, Ya Abbas, it's me. Abul Fazl Abbas, he says, so Mullah, what is it that you're doing? Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he looks at Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam, he says, Ya Abbas, tomorrow is going to be the 10th. Tomorrow there's going to be a battle here. After I get martyred, after my shahadat, all of the children in this camp, they're going to start running left and right. Why? Because the tents are going to be burnt. Mullah, what are you doing? Mullah Hussein, he tells Abu al-Fazl Abbas, Ya Abbas, I'm taking out any thorns that I see in this sand. Why? Because I don't want these thorns, I don't want these sharp objects to strike the feet of all these children. Imam Hussein al-Islam, who could not even think about these thorns striking the feet of the children, can you imagine how he felt when that arrow struck Ali al-Asghar through that throat? Can you imagine? They make the rounds. When they make the rounds, they go into the tent of Habib. Mullah Hussein, he tells all of them that if you all want to leave, you're more than welcome to leave. I won't force you all to fight. Tomorrow Shahadat, I won't force you to fight. If you all want to leave, you can leave. The first person to reply was Habib. After Habib, the next person to reply was Zuhair. Do you all know what Zuhair said? Zuhair, he said, Yabna Rasulullah, even if I was to get killed, brought back to life, and get killed, brought back to life, if this was to happen to me 1,000 times, I would still sacrifice my life for you. I would still sacrifice my life for you 1,000 times over. This was Zuhair. Sallallahu alayka ya Rasulallah. Sallallahu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sallallahu alayka ya Siddiqatu Fatima. Sallallahu alayka ya Hasan al-Mujtaba. Sallallahu alayka ya Gharib al-Ghuraba. Ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Ya Hussein. Brothers and sisters, when the 10th of Ashur came and the companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam are fighting, some of the narrations, they state that there was one-on-one battle. Sometimes two of the companions would go, sometimes a group would go. But when these one-on-one battles would happen, the enemy would constantly lose to the companions of Imam Hussein. So what would the enemy do? They would surround these companions. One of these companions of Imam Hussein, his name was Wahab. Who was Wahab? The narration state that he met Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam while he had just recently gotten married. He was a Christian. He was from Kufa. He had gone out. He had got married. And he was back on his way to Kufa. While on his way to Kufa, he meets the camp of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. When he meets that camp, his mother, she tells him, go see who that individual is. This individual, he's come with his family. See what is going on. And when he meets Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam tells him who he is. When he tells him who he is, he goes back to the mother and he tells the mother, oh my mother, this is who this individual, he's the grandson of Rasulullah. The mother, she tells her son, oh Wahab, go sacrifice yourself for this individual because I see on his face that there's nur and you will certainly be given heaven. When he goes to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam, he was still a Christian. He goes to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam and he tells him, Yabna Rasulullah, I want to sacrifice my life for you. That's what Imam Hussein, he says, Wahab, you're not even a Muslim. This has to do with Islam. That's what Wahab, he says, Yabna Rasulullah, if this has to do with Islam, then I testify that I testify to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I testify to the nabuwwat of your grandfather and I testify that you're on the right path. The narrations, what did they say? On the 10th of Ashur, when Wahab went out, he fought and he showed the people what type of courage he had. But the narrations, they said that an enemy, he struck his right arm and his right arm gets severed. They strike his left arm and his left arm gets severed. And when he couldn't do anything and he falls to the ground, the enemies, they take him to, when they take him to Umar Sa'd, what does he say? He tells them to behead him. When they behead him, they take the head and they throw it to the camp of his mother. The mother, she throws that head back. When she throws that head back, some of the narrations, they say that the wife of Wahab, she runs out. And when she runs out, Imam Hussein al-Islam, he tells her to go back to her camp. This was one of the companions. Another companion of the Holy Prophet, Joan, he was a freed slave. When he comes to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam, Imam Hussein al-Islam, he tells Joan, you've always been with us in times of good. Now I'm in this type of situation. I don't want you to throw away your life. I don't want you to sacrifice your life for me. Joan, he looks at Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam and he cries and he says, Yabna Rasulullah, you were the one who's been always feeding me. I've been with you in times of good. I know for a fact, Joan, he says, I know that my sweat, it smells. I know that I don't have a good physique. I know that I don't have good looks. And I know that I'm more dark than everyone else. Yabda Rasulullah, please allow me to do battle for your sake. Why? So that I might have a fragrance that comes off me. So that I may have a lineage that people talk about. So that I may have nur that permeates from my face. That's when Abu Abdullah Hussein al-Islam, he says, yeah, Joan, if you want to fight, you're more than welcome to fight. The narrations, they state that after Ashur, 10 days after Ashur, when they were still trying to dig for graves, they were digging graves and they were trying to put people in the graves. They say that for 10 nights there was nur that was coming off the face of Joan. Why? Because what Joan had said, so that there might be nur that comes off from my face. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa la'natullahi ala qawmil kafirin. Matama Hussein.
Yo, son. Yo, son. Yo, son. ये मेरी दुआ है, ये मेरी दुआ है, ये मेरी दुआ है, ये मेरी दुआ है. Zara ने कहा मातम में सर्वर